a lot of good things that have happened between us, good qualities that you have. Because I feel like who you were as a person has imprinted certain memories and experiences that are like, wow.
Am I the only one who's confused as to why Ruth needed to meet Isaac's family? Seriously, just for the family to tell them that the two of you are not it, you need to split up. That doesn't make sense. Courtney and Aiden, I don't even know. And then the rest, I don't know. And if a man does not talk about me or our relationship the way Nkateko talked about his feelings for Caesar, that was more or less him telling her he loves her. The fact that he was describing everything he's not over about them, to me, is his declaration of love. That's where I'm going to leave it. Anyway, hey there, thanks for stopping by. It's Valerie. Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe, click the like button, turn on the notification bell for when I upload new videos, and definitely leave a comment. In this episode, I'll be reviewing The Ultimatum South Africa, Season 1, Episode 8. Seriously, am I the only one who's wondering why Isaac and Ruth are still on the show? Okay, I love them both because they provide the drama, but I don't understand why they're still pretending to be a couple. Is that the only way the producers could save them? Because they have this conversation with Ruth trying to apologize. Ruth has always said she's sorry. She's not sorry she had sex, but she's sorry about the way it came out. And so for Isaac to say, oh, I'm still feeling some type of way, you made me feel like, and it's like, well, what do you want then? Do you want her or don't you? This is what she's asking you. If you don't want me, let me know and I'll keep it moving. I don't need to hang around where I'm not wanted. And he doesn't have the guts to turn around and say to her, I'm sorry, but I don't want you anymore. And I don't understand why. Ruth met up with Caesar, and she was telling Caesar that, oh, he showed me a ring box, blah 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 blah, and it's like he didn't introduce her to his family, but he was going to propose to her. Make that make sense? That math ain't mathing. Something is not right. Something smells fishy, because it doesn't make sense that he won't introduce her to his family because he says he needs to be in a serious relationship before he can introduce her, but he's happy to go and buy a ring for someone who his family don't know about. I don't understand that. Am I the only one? Is there any way I could skip Kateko and Kanya's reviews? Not because of Kanya, but because of the fact that I feel some type of way about seeing Kateko being happy with Kanya. I feel like he's cheating on my girl Caesar, and so I'm really in my feelings. Don't mind my reviews. So she buys him these speedos and a t-shirt from H&M, and it's like, you were yelling at him that he's wearing cheap shoes, but buddy, you went to H&M and bought an H&M brand speedo. Oh, please sit down. Please sit down. Of all the places you could have gone to, you could have even have gone to Woolworths. Woolworths is a better brand than H&M. Am I wrong? Can someone in South Africa confirm this for me, please? Because it doesn't make sense to me that she's all pompous and all full of herself, and then she does stupid, silly things like this, and she bought him a t-shirt, a no brand t-shirt for that matter. So who's cheap here? I think she's trying to butter him up. I think she's realized that what she did in throwing the bottle of wine and throwing the wine on him just made him switch off completely. I think, in my opinion, after his time with Caesar, Kanya will always live in Caesar's shadow. Sadly for Kanya, Caesar set such high standards that any other woman who's going to be with Nkateko will have to work really hard to win not just Nkateko, but to win his mom, because his mom in one conversation fell in love with Caesar. So you can only imagine. So she gives him these cheap presents. That's what I'm going to refer to them, because they are cheap. H&M is a cheap brand, I'm sorry. And then he tells her, well, she's asking, when are you going to propose? She gave him the gifts because she wanted a proposal. She didn't give him the gifts because you're sorry. I think she should have apologized, and then she should have, I'm so sorry. When we came back from the recoupling, I was in my feelings because I didn't like the comment you made about you and Isaac talking about me. Please, I sincerely apologize, and I hope you can find it in your heart to forgive me. I really was feeling some type of way, and seeing how happy you and Caesar had been also affected my mood. And so I am sorry. I shouldn't have let things get out of hand. I hope you can find a place in your heart to forgive me. And as a token of my my apology. I want to give you these gifts. And then she should have left it like that. And then been nice to him for a couple of days. I know they've only got 3 weeks, but at least being nice to him for 48 hours. And then she should have come back and said, oh, I just wanted us to have a conversation. What do you think? Do you see yourself proposing at the end of the experiment or not? Because now he said to her, you need to get, to resolve your issues with my mom. And it's like, well, young lady, you are in trouble. You are in trouble because Caesar's already been there. And within one session, the mother was like, Caesar just pressed play and she started offloading every single nasty thing she could come out with about, Kanya. So Kanya and his mom making up, the mother is always going to hold on to that. And when she sees this bottle of wine being thrown at her son and wine being spilled on him and him being told to go back where he came from, I don't come here with your body that was in Caesar's bed, it's just going to make things worse. Even if they made up with the mother, when the show comes out, things are going to go back to square zero. If I were Kanya, it's time to move on. This relationship has failed. Let me go and look for the next one. Because this is not it. This man has been able to find a woman, or he's spent time with a woman who's been able to show him love, care, compassion, empathy, who's been able to build him up and hasn't just looked to him to be her punching bag, her moral support, her voice of reason, everything. So for Kanya, she is fighting with Caesar's shadow. Sadly, she is fighting with Caesar's shadow. Not only is she fighting with it with Nkateko, but she's also fighting with it with his mum, because his mum now knows the type of person that she wants for her son. And so whatever this woman does, even if Kanya gets pregnant from Nkateko, even if this child is his, there's always going to be this underlying issue of how she treated him, whatever issues she had with the mother, and the fact that she's not Caesar. The mother is going to hold on to that until Jesus comes. It's the audacity for me. It's the audacity. If double standard was a person, then we would have, what's his name? This guy Lindel's face right next to the word double standard. Because he and Tabby are busy giving each other gifts. They're busy cuddling outside the door and hugging each other and whatever else is happening there. And yet he has the audacity. To sit down, Nkateko, to say, oh, I want to sit down with Nkateko because he and Caesar have a great bond. He and my Caesar. She is not your Caesar. When you walked into the experiment, you wouldn't even hold her hand. When she called you baby, you told her you didn't want to hear about it. When she said, I love you, you said you didn't care about it. When she was crying and she was being consoled and then she was given words of comfort, Nkateko and Genesis were the ones that were nodding their head and showing her that they're in support of her. You sat there blank-faced. Now you've realized that there's someone who's actually able to give her everything she wants and more. Suddenly you want to intimidate him and make him sort of retract. Oh, I think they made each other a commitment that they're going to leave this thing together. Well, if they do, then I am happy for the two of them, because they are two people that deserve nothing but the best. In my opinion, they deserve everything positive. And so for him to sit Nkateko down and try and have a conversation and have Nkateko actually defend Caesar and say you have to be gentle with her doesn't make sense. Well, I've been very gentle with her. No, you haven't, buddy. The very first night you wouldn't talk to her, she had to apologize to you. If that's you being gentle, then excuse me, I don't understand the word gentle. Please sit down. And for him to say, don't take my girl, it's like, what do you want? You want Tabby, but you also want Caesar. Make it make sense. You say you and Tabby have this great connection and you're very close and whatever, and you've got pet names for one another. So keep it moving. This is why Isaac said they're two of the most confused people he knows, because they need to keep it moving and leave Caesar alone. I have a feeling that he's only fighting for Caesar because he's realized that somebody else wants Caesar more than he does. And with Nkateko, he's not going to fight Lindel for Caesar. He's going to wait, in my opinion. That's the impression that I get. He's going to sit there and wait and see what happens. If Caesar comes to him, she comes to him. If she doesn't, she doesn't. But he's never going to force a situation, because even when he was told, don't take my girl, that was the first time I've seen him laugh so loud since he recoupled with Kanya. He hasn't really been his outgoing self. He's had to sort of walk on eggshells. And so it was nice to see him laugh and to see him smile. But you could see that he was concerned He was concerned as Linda was talking. Oh, she still thinks about you. She still that. Yes, she is going to think about him. They made a lot of great memories. She has the right to sort of sit back and reflect and ask herself, this is what I had before I came into the experiment. This is what I have had in the experiment. This is what I have now. What do I want? Do I want what I had at the start of the experiment, or do I want what I have now? She's entitled to that, and he has to suck it up, buttercup. It's interesting. It's interesting. So they have a guys and girls night. And so you have Nkateko just saying, he's been questioning himself in regards, why am I still here? Should I stay or should I leave? And he's been finding reasons to stay and reasons to leave, which is to be accepted. And so he's still a work in progress. The girls sit down and Courtney sort of asks, Kanya, where are you? Oh, we are back to normal. We had to tell each other that everything else was. She is set on taking a swipe at Caesar for some reason, best known to her. Her jealousy is still eating at her. She must know that this guy developed feelings the same way Lindel knows that Nkateko and Caesar had this amazing, strong bond. This is the same way that Kanya feels. And they're going to do and say anything just to sort of spite Kanya and Caesar for developing a strong connection. Because for her to say, oh, we had to realize that everything else was just a distraction, and it's like, that's not what he said to you, buddy. Tell the truth. Tell the truth. Tell them that he told you that you need to make amends with his mother. And then Caesar is going to sit there smiling like like a cat who's got some cream, because she will know that his mother can't stand you. She can't stand the sight of you. She can't stand your name. I can't wait. Caesar obviously talks about the fact that she and Lindel are still struggling because, they had a lot of things to work through, and they're still talking about things because they've been through a lot. And for Lindel to sort of say, oh, I've lost my confidence, he is trying to make it seem like he's intimidated by, or Nkateko is intimidating him. Nkateko hasn't said anything. He hasn't done anything. He's kept his space. He and Caesar put whatever connection they had on pause the day they had to recouple, even though they didn't want to do it. They had to do it. Yes, they sealed it off with a kiss, but hey, it is what it is. And so I don't get how Kanya and Lindel are so intimidated that they have to always take a swipe at Caesar and Nkateko because they developed a strong connection. That connection must be really strong for their partners and everybody else to know it and see it and recognize it for what it is. Word of the day is audacity. Word of the day is audacity. So you have, Tabby talk about her connection and how she's working back on her relationship with Genesis, right? She's talking about the fact, she brings up the issue of the present, that why did, Caesar bring it back? If she didn't like it, she should have chucked it in the bin. I didn't want to leave it in your villa and then you come back your first night. And it's like, but you still left it in the villa without her seeing it. Why didn't you come at a time where she was around? That way you could tell her that I'm giving your man this gift because he gave me a gift on our last day. Why didn't you do that? Yes, I know it's a double standard for Caesar to be upset, because on the night she went back to her place with Lindel, she was still wearing Nkateko's ring. I remember I saw that she was still wearing Nkateko's ring. So yeah, but still, nobody else would know it's Nkateko's ring unless you're very observant. But the idea that somebody brought a present and brought a message that said what goes around comes around, that was upsetting. And I give it to Ruth. Ruth was ready. Ruth is best friends with Caesar. So Ruth is always ready to go, and I am ready to go. And so the idea that Tabby tried to make a big deal about it, I don't get it. And for Mrs. Kanya to sit there and appear bored by that fact, I can only imagine if Caesar had done the same thing. If she had come round while Tabby wasn't there and left a present for Nkateko, I know the whole villa would have been on fire. The whole 6 villas would have been on fire, because she would have gone in and out of every room and every villa swearing. So the audacity to sit there and look annoyed and bored doesn't make sense. And then you have Genesis talking about the fact that, he pulled Lindel aside for a conversation and spoke about the present. And Lindel is like, oh, well, it's good for Genesis now that he knows that, I and Tabby had a great connection and that there is competition. And it's like, oh, Mr. Double Standard. So when it's you, the two of you had a great connection, you're competition for Genesis, so Genesis has to be aware. But when it's Caesar and Kay, you have to go and intimidate them both and guilt them for having a connection and guilt them for even being very close after they've recoupled back with their original partners. Make that make sense, because the math ain't mathing. If you don't like the fact that Caesar still has feelings for Nkateko, why then do you feel it's okay for you to still have feelings for Tabi? And why then do you feel it's okay for you to say your competition for Genesis? Imagine if Nkateko said the same thing. What would happen? You and Kanya deserve each other. You and Kanya deserve each other. You deserve to be a couple. That's just my opinion. I swear, this show has not disappointed at all, and I wish a lot more people would watch it so that we get a season 2 of the South African Ultimatum. Anyway, you have the guys sitting there having conversations, and then the topic comes up of who has had sex. I think people wanted to suss it out, because the person who came out with it, Kay, I think he wanted to know whether Lindel and Caesar have done anything, and I think Genesis wanted to know whether Caesar and Lindel had done anything, because then he would know his chick is safe, whereas, Kay would be worried that how is she having sex with him when, we were this close. And so for everybody else to say they've had sex and the only person is Isaac, and Isaac is justified, Aiden is ecstatic, everybody's happy for him. So I understand Isaac's rationalization in the sense that he says, I don't want to do or make a decision that is driven by sex. I want to have a clear head when we get to the ultimatum to be able to make a sound decision that looks at money, family, finances, everything else outside of the sex. If everything else is good, then we'll go ahead, which did make sense, and I was happy for that. And then you go back to the girls, and Ruth has been waiting. Ruth is close friends with Caesar, and I think Caesar, after the kerfuffle with Kanya, she must have told her what happened. So Ruth has been biding her time, waiting for Kanya to sort of try something, and Kanya is trying to sort of slut shame Ruth, in my opinion, by saying, oh, you slept with a random guy, you gave him full access. And Ruth said, same ditto, buddy. You were taking a shower with Isaac in the cubicle. You were taking a bath, he was having a shower. You gave him full access to your body. Every time you came in and out of the bath and he saw your naked body, that's full access. No, that's not full access. You were full access. And everybody else was just there with their popcorn watching. I think people like Caesar and Courtney have really wanted someone to give Kanya a piece of their mind, and this was the opportunity that somebody finally gave Kanya a piece of their mind. And it was sad because once Ruth responded back, then she went, oh, you are like Isaac, every time somebody attacks him he attacks back. And it's like, so what did you expect her to do? Did you expect her to go into a ball and cry like Caesar? No, I give her credit for standing up to you, because you're trying to be a bully and somebody needs to humble you, and I'm happy that she was humbled. The other thing I noticed, I don't know whether it's just me, Caesar is now a shadow of herself. She used to be bubbly, she was happy. Even Kay is a shadow of himself. He's not as happy-go-lucky as he was when he was coupled up with Caesar. And it's sad to see Caesar just sit there and just be quiet, as though she's just been forced to be there. I think she's still getting PTSD from the issue she had with Kanya. I think that's something else that's just making her just keep quiet and just be there, just, as a body, but not really there in spirit. This episode was really going to make me sad, but I have moments where I can't help but laugh out loud, because you have the, events and you have Ruth, she's sort of venting to, Isaac, what's happened? And Isaac is hyping her up and is ecstatic that someone finally has put Kanya back in her box, because she's been a bully and she's trying to bully every single person on the show, really. So the fact that, she met her match in Ruth, this really had Isaac excited, and he was actually bragging that I give her credit for doing that. That's my woman. And the guys had been talking, because Kay had asked that, what do you think the girls are doing? And everyone was, oh no, they should be in good books, blah 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 blah. And he said, no, there will be an argument. And then for him to walk in and just greet Kanya, and he said as soon as she responded, he knew something had gone wrong. And he was waiting to hear what had gone wrong. And I think maybe he thought maybe Kanya and Caesar had another go round too. And so for him to find out it's about Ruth, he was disinterested. And then in his confessional, he said, oh God, this was a topic for 3-4 hours. And then the producers are messy. They had clip after clip and clip of Kanya going on about Ruth. And for me, this is where I say Kanya is fighting with Caesar's ghost, in the sense that he's Kai has managed to be with someone where there's been a confrontation, and he has seen how she's dealt with the confrontation and how she's recovered from that. And I think now, after that, this is why every time Kanya does something that he doesn't like, he looks back at a point of reference, which is Caesar, and he sees how Caesar handled it and how Kanya didn't handle it in the same way. Because in the end, he had to say to her, you have to move on. We can't keep going. You've been going for an hour about Ruth. Of all people, Ruth. Why? Why are we going on about Ruth? We don't need to be having this conversation. And so, oh, poor thing, she's lost him. She really has lost him. And this is a guide, I think, for most girls to see how you lose your partner. Just look at Kanya and then look at Caesar and look at how they handle their situations with Kay and see how, guys, you can tell when he's switched off or when he's checked out, because Kay has checked out. As far as I'm concerned, he's checked out because he's had this amazing time and he's come back to this terrible environment where he's not happy at all. And you can see that he's just there in spirit, but he's really not there. Aiden and Courtney, for me, are a bit of a shocking couple in the sense that they are people who are very rigid and are very difficult to sort of move from whatever decision or choices they've made. And so them being on the show, I don't know. I know they didn't explore any romantic sort of connection with anyone. I don't know whether they did this deliberately because they knew that at the end of this, they might be getting married and didn't want to give their families anything that might be disheartening or sort of heartbreaking. I know even though they didn't have romantic connections, they had an amazing experience with amazing partners. Genesis and Lebo are the best they could have found. Lebo was there for Aiden and sort of was a sounding board for him in a lot of things, just as he was there for her and was very protective of her, especially when the issue with Ruth and Nola came out. And so I am a bit surprised they say that he doesn't have a career. And it's like, so what does he do for a living then? What has he been doing? I don't get it. They are asking for something that is sort of solid, something that will give Courtney the confidence to know that he's someone who is sort of, because she likes structure. So she wants to know that he is he's structured in his way of thinking. He's structured in his way of doing things. Courtney was a bit concerned about Aiden sort of sitting with her family, but it was good for him because he was able to sum up the courage to ask for their blessing for him to propose, because he's already said he's got the ring. And Courtney was with Aiden's mom and she seems very happy with the mom. She says she really loves the mom. I wish Kanya took a page out of Courtney's book, because the relationship between Courtney and Aiden's mom seemed very good, which is what any guy wants, really. And so what do I think? I don't know. I don't know whether they've grown. I know they've found friends in the experiment, and hopefully those friends will continue to guide them and give them an unbiased opinion. I love the fact that Courtney's dad said to Aiden, your dad is overseas, I'm here. I'm happy to be your sounding board anytime you need a father figure. And that was sweet. I really loved that. It's interesting that Isaac hadn't allowed Ruth to meet any of his family. The only way she got to meet his family was by being on the show. Otherwise, and the show required him to bring a family member. Yes, for the sister to say, oh, in our custom, you don't bring anyone home unless you're about to get married. But that's for your parents, though. Your siblings can still see the person you're dating. Seriously, you would need a family member to give their opinion about the person you're dating before you bring them home. You just don't date someone in the bush and then one day bring her home and say, oh, by the way, this is my partner. That doesn't make sense. And Ruth was, with the smoke, because she said to him, if you want to be a husband, then you need to husband me full time. Don't allow room for somebody else to come and husband me. And I think sex has been an issue for them. I think sex has been an issue because she brought it up and it's like, you're on TV. What is he not giving you? If he's not giving you what you want, then maybe leave him. Even the cousin or brother said so that, they're going to be two miserable people if they stay together. So maybe it's a good idea for them to split. And I think, I don't think they'll recover, because when his family see the clips of her and Nolan having sex, they're going to say, no, she's not it. Even if they got married, the family is going to push for them, or there's going to be chaos in the family and she's going to eventually pack her bags and leave because, hey, that's not sustainable. That is not sustainable. And if he's not giving her what she needs, what's the point of her putting a ring on it only for her to go through a lifetime of not getting what she wants, and for him to say, I still want to go out. And it's like, yeah, you want to go out, but if you're a father with with a wife and children, you're going to need to spend time with them. You can't expect to be spending time with your friends and coming back in the AM. That doesn't make sense. That's for someone who wants to club, not for someone who's serious about getting married, unless you want to wife her part-time, as she said. To say I'm surprised or I'm confused by Courtney and Aiden is an understatement. Because I didn't get their date. Apparently, they met on a beach. There's a swimming pool there. Why didn't the producers help them sort of lay out beach towels, put a nice little scenery instead of just taking them into a small little room and filming them there? I didn't get it. I did not get that date at all. They only had one inflatable flamingo and what else? And that's a beach. And it's like, this doesn't make sense. It's interesting because you have back-to-back dates. So you have Caesar on a date with Lindel, and then you have Tabby on a date with Genesis. And they are trying a bit too hard. They're trying a bit too hard, in my opinion. I think Lindel is fighting the ghost of, Nkateko. So he's set up this date, with the juice, and you can tell Caesar is not she's a shadow of her former self. She's not happy at all. I haven't seen her happy since she returned back to Lindel. She was right to say I wasn't ready. I needed more time. I think if they had been on an experiment like Married at First Sight where they get 8 weeks, Nkateko and Caesar would have walked out as a couple. They would have walked out as a couple, because even Lindel was saying, I don't know whether they've promised each other that they're going to leave their partners and just be a couple, because she spoke about the fact that it's been a struggle. They've struggled for the first week, but now the final 2 weeks they've been okay. And for me, it's like, the two of you are okay, but you barely seem happy. There's no smile. You seem like you've just been crying. What does this mean? Make it make sense. The math ain't mathing. Because I feel like with Lindel, I think he's facing pressure the same way Genesis is facing pressure, that if they both propose that it's because of the pressure that they're worried that their person will be taken by somebody else. I don't know whether the girls are still in these relationships wholeheartedly. I don't think so, because Caesar is a shadow of herself, as I've said. She's always very downcast. We all know her. She used to be giggly and smiley and used to laugh at everything. And now even her eyes look like she's been crying. So I feel sorry for her, and I really hope she finds joy and happiness. With Genesis and Tabby, their date is sort of going through their old pictures from high school and college and stuff, and it was cute, but still there is this tension there. This is why Isaac was saying, Lindel and Tabby are two confused people. I feel, in my opinion, they should have told their partners the truth. They should have told their partners the truth. That way their partners would be able to go and find joy, because their partners are now stuck in this relationship. Lindel has been hounding Nkateko and telling him that don't take my girl from me. Oh, my girl this, my girl this, my girl this. And yet he's still harboring feelings for Tabby. Tabby's harboring feelings for Lindel. And yet she's also saying that she's 80% ready to get married to this man. Make that make sense? Because none of it is making sense to me as far as I'm concerned. The producers for, the Ultimatum South Africa deserve an award, because how is Nkateko sitting there? He's bought this beautiful dress for her. Given the fact that she bought him stuff from H&M, I will continue to say that H&M is cheap stuff. You wear it 2-3 times, it goes in the bin. I'm sorry to whoever I've offended. But anyway, so for her to put on this dress and for them to be talking and her sort of trying to put words in his mouth and say, you've been wanting to get married for a very long time and I am not forcing you. I didn't bring here to force you to propose, but this is something that you've been wanting to do. And it's like, so do you want him to say, yes, I've been wanting to do this? He didn't say that. So to me, it tells me that she's been pushing him to propose. He hasn't proposed. She's signed him up for the ultimatum and is trying to force his hand. That way he proposes, because he says, this is what you've always wanted to do. Yes, they have this moment of talking about their relationship and where they are, and she needs to wear the dress again and blah 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 blah. And it's like, my mind keeps going back to when he had his last date with Caesar and how happy he was and how smiley and giggly he was, even with the dance. for him to say you're the only woman I've ever wanted, well, his actions and his face are not saying the same thing. He needs to get his mouth and his face aligned so that whatever is coming out of his mouth matches his face, because his eyes have just gone dead, just like Caesar's eyes. They're both not as giggly or smiley as they were when they were a couple. And so, I don't know, the fact that she had to push him to carry her to bed and sort of ask, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? That way she can say, oh, we had sex the night before he proposed. It's going to be embarrassing if he doesn't propose, but we are here for that. Whoever decided to have the final meetup between Nkateko and Caesar, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you. My heart appreciates you, because my heart has been breaking. The fact that we only saw less than 2 minutes of them and they laughed and they smiled so much. Yes, they're not as smiley or bubbly as they were when they were a couple, but the fact that they were so happy in those few minutes, or they were happy in those few minutes than we've seen them in their couples, does not make sense to me. Does not make sense to me. Why are these people not becoming a proper couple? Because they give each other life, they're each other's person. Why are they continuing to try and please people that they know for a fact they don't have a stronger connection as they do? And so I love their meetup, I love the catch up. Obviously they agreed that they care about each other, so they were checking up. You could tell that Caesar is worried about Nkateko to see how he's doing. He did talk about the ups and downs of his relationship, and I'm happy that he didn't tell her that, Kanya threw a bottle at him, because Caesar would have gone looking for her. She would have gone looking for her, because it's unacceptable. And you could see when Kateko asked Caesar, are you happy? The way he sort of leaned his head to the side and seemed very worried about her. I think he's thinking of everything. The things that he was told about Lindel, about her struggling to sort of move on, is one of the reasons why he was concerned. And if a man doesn't describe me or our connection the way Nkateko described how he feels about Caesar, then I don't want him. He can keep it moving. Because, she asked him, are you over me? And then for him to describe, I said this, I'll repeat this. Whoever dates or whoever he marries will be living in the shadow of Caesar, because she's created a template for him of what is ideal. I know he was saying, Kanya is his ideal woman. He's the woman he sees himself marrying. I still feel he has way more feelings for Caesar than he wants to admit. And because he doesn't want to be the bad guy, or because he doesn't want to force her hand and wants to see her happy, he's decided to put his feelings aside and allow her to make her choice. And even for her, when she described her feelings about him, it was so sad and so emotional. I think if nothing else, they're going to be in each other's lives for the rest of their life. I think the only reason why they wouldn't continue to be in communication if they're not a couple is because their partner would have said, no, I'm not comfortable with this relationship. The way they make each other happy, you can see the sadness in both their eyes, even though they're saying we're happy, that these two people are not happy. They really do miss each other, but they're trying to do what's right. Because I remember when they had that swimming pool scene where Caesar was saying, I hope I don't come across as the bad guy, or I don't come across horrible. And I think this is why they're being very cautious to make sure that they protect her, or this is why Nkateko is doing everything within his power to protect her and make sure that she doesn't face any backlash. I really want them to reconsider. I want them to be a couple. I really want them to be a couple. I want them to be a couple is where I'm going to end. Anyway, thanks guys for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, comment and subscribe, and click the link in my video to watch my review from episode 7. Bye guys.